There are a lot of MMOs on the immediate horizon. Blue Protocol is launching later this year. Throne of Liberty is launching later this year. But there's one MMO launching sooner than either of the aforementioned titles. And this game didn't start out as an MMO. On the contrary, according to an article from Games Radar, this MMO turned into an MMO by accident. And this isn't the first time this has happened, nor is it the first time the reverse has happened. There have been games that started off as MMOs, like I think the game was Titan, and turned into non-MMOs, like Titan turned into Overwatch. Wayfinder developer admits that it definitely didn't pitch it as an MMO. Now, before I go any further, I do want to note here that MRSSSTIX actually covered Wayfinder in a very dedicated, very deep, complex video where she went over and experienced literally everything the game had to offer. This is one of the deepest, most thorough dives anyone did of the game. So if you are at all interested in seeing what the game's like, if you're curious about whether you should be excited for it, I strongly urge you go ahead and take a look at her video, which I will link to in the end card at the end of the video. I will link to in the description and the pinned comment below. Spoiler alert, she did have a lot of fun and she will be playing it when it launches soon. But Games Radar posted this article and I was curious because I was not under the impression that Wayfinder was developed as a non-MMO to begin with, but I am kind of impressed with where they ultimately ended up. Wayfinder, the upcoming online action RPG from developer Airship Syndicate, offers a colorful, character-driven adventure in an evolving world that puts interaction between players at its core. It's shaping up to be a very promising MMO, but it turns out the studio didn't have a massively multiplayer online experience in mind when it set about making the game. In an interview featured in Play Magazine, company president Ryan Stefanelli recalls how the game's MMO status surprised those creating it. It grew bigger and bigger to the point where it was like, hey, is this an MMO we're working on all of a sudden? We definitely didn't pitch it that way. But at the same time, how do you make an MMO without meaning to make it an MMO? Did they go into this while anticipating a low number of concurrent players that are present on screen at any given time? Because if they went into this without a cap or with a very large cap of hundreds if not thousands of players all capable of coexisting and occupying a single area, it's kind of an MMO. So to me, you would have had to make a mental note of that prior to implementing it. Before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here to thank all of our incredible patrons. You guys allow me to continue to play games like this for a living, and I can never truly repay that kindness. Also, if you're interested, I stream over on Twitch every single weekend. You should totally come on over and join me. CEO and creative director Joe Madureira explains that the game grew in terms of ambition and scope as the numbers working at Airship Syndicate swelled. And that is always positive. That is always a great thing to see. Your studio, your staff, the developers that are actively working on it continuing to expand in number, which doesn't always equate to quality. Early on, we were limited because of our team size. We were so small, we had limits that we're starting to push beyond now. Wayfinder is a free-to-play title and was first unveiled during the Game Awards in December last year. It's set in Evanor, a world under threat from a force called the Gloom. You take control of Wayfinder's mighty warriors born of the Gloom and are tasked with conquering it. To do this, you'll visit dungeon-like areas known as Lost Zones, where you and your buddies can battle enemies and gather resources for customizing your loadout and crafting new gear. Wayfinder's next closed beta takes place on May 24th. For those of you that did not know, it is literally right around the corner next week. The beta is going to take place on the PS5, PS4, and PC. The game is expected to release into early access on all of the above mentioned platforms in summer 2023. A full launch is planned for late 2023, and according to the game's official Twitter page, Xbox versions are also in the works, but Xbox players are second-class citizens because they are inferior to PlayStation players. Everyone knows this. Now, I will note here, Wayfinder has been delayed a multitude of times over the last few months because they've suffered various different issues, setbacks since her last beta test, but while they have suffered repeated delays, I think it's for the best. Because if they release now, people are going to have this sour first impression of the game, and the game will die. So it is better for them to take their time to fix the glaring issues that are currently present and to make sure players' first impressions of the game are positive, because positive word of mouth will allow for the game to expand, reach new audiences, and subsequently succeed. Now again, MRSSSTIX did a video on this. She covered every aspect of the game. I urge you to go ahead and take a look at that. You can click the video on screen right now to be directed towards that, or alternatively, I have another video that will showcase every MMO that is releasing this month if you're interested. Either way, I urge you to go ahead and at least check one of them.